Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock. So our city council meeting work session is called to order December 18th, 2018. Thank you very much. So we will go through the agenda and have items discussed, and then move into our briefing session. So first thing on the agenda, city manager, go through the agenda, please.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Tonight on the consent agenda, item 4A are the minutes for the December 4th regular City Council meeting. Item 4B on the consent agenda is a resolution supporting the United States Census Bureau for the 2020 census. As you know, every 10 years a census is performed. We also have a representative tonight from the U.S. Census Bureau who will give a short brief now on this item. So Jennifer Pope is with the Dallas Census Office. Ms. Pope. Chastity Allen Benson is the staff liaison for the census as well.
Okay, thank you everyone for allowing me to come and do this presentation today. My name is Jennifer Pope and I am the partnership specialist for your area right now. I cover all of North Texas, the Metroplex, and part of West Texas. We are hiring additional partnership specialists that will be in the area. Also, I am pleased to announce that Duncanville has been chosen to have an area census office, which means there's going to be lots of jobs available for the constituents in the Duncanville area. That office is going to be located at 410 East Camp Wisdom. So we will actually start pulling applications for the office in February, and it will open between June, July, or August of next year. I'm just going to go over a brief overview, a timeline, and talk about a complete count committee and determining local resources and any questions and answers that you might have. Why do we do the census? It's actually mandated by Article 1, Section 2 of the United States that we do a census every 10 years. So basically that's one of the reasons. Another reason is if also because of apportionment. In the 2010 census, actually, Texas gained 4 additional seats. And you see there were some states that lost seats. It is also, we think that because of having an accurate count in 2020, that Texas will actually gain another 3 or 4 seats. So we want those additional seats for the state of Texas. Also, another thing is George Washington University did a study, and in your packets that you have, the study is actually in there. And what they came up with is the top 16 services that's utilized. And because of the amount of money, there's $675 billion that is stand to receive for the census. Texas would receive $43 billion of those dollars, which equates to $1,578 per person, per individual. Now, with that said, the average household is about 4 people. So with about 4 people, that's about $6,000 for the average household. So of all of those 16 services, we want our dollar amount to stay in the state of Texas because those services are being utilized and we don't want the services to go away. Right now, with our timeline, we're doing in-house address canvassing. And what that means is we're looking at all of our current data that we have and we're doing in-house address checking. Also, in April of this year, we opened up a regional census center. That regional census center is actually located in Irving, Texas at 4500 Fuller Drive. The early census office, there is only one that's going to open up in the state of Texas. It's going to be in Houston. That office is going to open up between January and February. But like I said, the additional offices, the one that's going to be located here in Duncanville is actually going to be open up in June, July, or August. Now, what I want to talk to you today is very important. In 2010, we utilized complete count committees. We went around to all of the cities and we asked them to form a complete count committee. A majority of the cities did. I worked in 2010. I handled all of Tarrant County. All of my cities that I went to in Tarrant County did form complete count committees. So I'm really asking that Duncanville will actually agree to do a resolution saying that they support the 2020 census, as well as form a complete count committee. So what is a complete count committee? It's actually made up of volunteer individuals, we call them census ambassadors, that can help generate interest and also educate individuals in the community, their trusted voices in the community, about the 2020 census to get them to fill out their census form. The structure of the complete count committee, normally the mayor will appoint the complete count committee members, or sometimes some of the cities will actually ask each one of the council members if they have names that they want to submit to be on the complete count committee as well. When I talk about hard to count, those are individuals that actually will not fill out their census form, and those are the ones that we want to tackle. Anything that's 25% or higher, we want to look at those census tracts and actually come up with strategies to have them to fill out their census form. Your complete count committee should look like your community, so you want to have all races, ethnicities on your complete count committee as well. And you want to have individuals that can influence everyone in the community that it's safe and important for them to fill out their census form. Your complete count committee, we're asking that you maybe put media on there, education, someone from your educational institutions on there, faith-based, anyone that you deem that would be a trusted voice in your community that could actually influence the entire community to fill out their census form. I actually looked at one of your census tracts, and I don't know if you can read this, but this says, I believe it's 25 point something percent. What that means is, in this tract that I looked at, that number of 25% of the individuals will not fill out their census form. That's very important. And when you go into Rome, you can actually look and see why maybe those individuals that live in that tract will not fill out their census form. That's where your complete count committee comes in. They would actually look at all of your census tracts. Anything that's 25% or higher, you're going to target those areas and come up with strategies and to help influence those that live in hard to count census tracts as to why. Hard to count might be that they're apartment renters, so they may be transient. Maybe there's a language barrier. Those are some of the things that if you look on Rome, it will actually tell you why that tract is considered a hard to count tract. Now, once you form your complete count committee, there are going to be things on the website that you can actually pull off a toolkit to help you strategize, as well as to maybe have news stories, things like that that you want to do. For your educational side, we have statistics in the schools. It's activities on there from K to 12. I went on and actually did an activity for each grade level. They're really awesome activities. The teachers can pull those off. They can, once they pull them off, the answer sheets are there, so the children can actually help influence their parents to fill out their census form as well. As I said again, we have tons of jobs. In the economy the way it is, it's going to be very imperative that you will actually ask people to fill out the information for jobs. The way it works this time is everything's going to be online. They can go online now, fill out their census form, not their census form, but actually fill out their application. If they say they only want to work on Saturday or Sunday, then they will start pulling them jobs for Saturday and Sunday. So anybody that's maybe wanting to work part-time, college students, things like this would be a good opportunity for them. And the bottom line, we want to count everyone once, only wants it in the right place. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Would you go back to that census, the hard to count census tract? How did you Oh, it's very small and read. Is there a?
Yes,
alternate state
if you
or
go
something
to census.gov/round, here where that drop-down area is over on the left, say select place, type in Duncanville space Texas, all of the tracks will come up, and just start clicking on the tracks. And there is a grid that shows you anything that's 20, the darker the color, the harder the track. And you can actually look at that. I was in Wichita Falls today, and one of the young ladies there, she actually had gone on to Rome. She found out that Wichita Falls had 11 hard to count tracks, and that's a lot of tracks that's hard to count. So that's what you want to strategize and actually work on. And there's, I didn't put a form in your packet on Rome, but I can send it over to you, and then you can just, she'll distribute it to all of the city council members as well.
Who's funding this? The complete count committee?
Who's funding the complete count?
Should Duncanville vote for this resolution? Who's funding the complete count?
Normally with the complete count committee, we do, in 2010, there was a opportunity to do grants. We don't have that opportunity anymore, but we do have funding, a form that a lot of businesses are actually wanting to give funds to support the census. One of those entities is Microsoft. They're wanting to actually do funds. So we do have funding, a list of funders that you could actually write to ask them to help fund your complete count committee. A lot of opportunities that you can do for your complete count committee can be things that really won't necessarily cost a lot of money. Like some cities are really using their social media. And you know, social media, that wouldn't cost anything for the city. A lot of cities are getting their business owners involved on their complete count committee, and they're doing certain things on their complete count committee to do. For the education side, one of the cities actually, and I didn't get it until they explained it to me, they did a bee costume, and they're having the bee, like for bee counting, go around to the cities and, to the schools, and the children will be able to track the bee and actually do things like that. Things like putting things in your water bill. So there are some things, and there's, like I said, the toolkit is available, and we actually have ideas that you can utilize. One thing that I'm hoping to do next year is, there are already complete count committees that have already begun and have formed. I would like to do a call like once a month so that the complete count committees could actually talk to each other. If something's working in their city, they can tell Duncanville or another city so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's going to be a lot of things that you can do that won't cost a lot of any money, but there will be some type of funding that might be needed for certain things that you're going to do.
We have not set aside any specific funding for the census in our budget.
We did,
Yes.
You said that there's gonna be an office in Duncanville.
Yes.
And it's gonna be opening June, July of next year.
Ginger office.
And that will bring jobs to Duncanville.
Yes.
Okay. After the census, what happens to those jobs?
Those, like even for myself, it's a 2-year job.
Okay.
And once the census is over, then the jobs will actually go away.
matter of information, we, the city, were not aware of the Census Bureau leasing space in our city until November. And when we first had our first briefing with Ms. Pope, I asked the question, when and how does this happen? It turns out the Census Bureau has their own, basically their own real estate office. And they survey the cities in which census is
Yes.
going to be taken. And they located property within Duncanville and leased that out independently. And then came to us and said, we have an office. So we were notified after the fact of the location of the census office being here at 410 on Wheatland. It's okay, it was vacant space and it's going to be well utilized for a good 2 years.
Yes. We were actually having a hard time, just like the jobs. We're probably going to need to have at least 5 times the applicants of the number of jobs we need, because once they fill out their application, maybe they get another job, or they get the job and they don't pass clearance, or they get the job and they don't accept it. So even like that, so with the real estate, the economy is so great, we were just trying to, we were having a hard time getting real estate in different locations, so we were really glad when we were able to get a location in Duncanville.
So, as I said, the mayor will appoint individuals to this committee. We're thinking somewhere around 15 people, 10 or 15 people to comprise the committee. As Jennifer said, we need to look at the ethnicities and the races and look at the locations. So,
I'd like to pull this off the consent agenda and put it on the
Yeah, because she also mentioned that each council person can select someone.
Well,
that's where I was
Yeah,
getting
they
ready
wouldn't
to
have
say that.
jurisdiction over us anyway. We decide on what we do. They don't.
We will just, yeah, we will decide who is going to be on the committee.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Because we don't know your community, like I live in Arlington, Texas, I know Arlington, but I don't know Duncanville, so it's up to you guys to decide who should be appointed and to your complete count committee.
Right.
And we will come back in once you have appointed everyone and do the training for them.
Okay, so you want this moved to the regular agenda, okay? All right, so Ms. Pope, you're going to need to stay around.
Okay, that's fine,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, moving on.
Item 4C is a resolution approving the first renewal of an agreement with Redflex for scofflaw. This is not the Redflex administration contract. That the overarching contract is, we are in a 10-year contract that expires in 2021 with Redflex on the operation and administration of the red light cameras. This particular contract is for them to administer the collection of fees in cooperation with Dallas County and the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. And what this does is it puts a hold on renewing your auto registration if you have an outstanding ticket. So this is would be a renewal of that contract for a 5-year period.
I'd like to remove this from the consent agenda also.
Okay.
Item 4D is a resolution authorizing procurement of police ammunition from GT Distributors through a buy board contract. This is in an amount of $52,560. The amount is budgeted in the police department budget. Those are all of the items on the consent agenda. On the regular agenda, item 5A is a resolution approving an economic development agreement with, through the DCEDC to Obadiah Incorporated, doing business as Ideal Floors. And this is for a signage grant in an amount up to 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,000 for an LED pole sign. Ideal Floors has been in Duncanville for a number of years. Mr. Sean Haynes purchased the company from his father. He has purchased another building on North Duncanville Road and is wanting to expand the business to that location and has requested assistance with an LED pole sign. The DCEDC did approve this grant request. And then item 5B is a resolution amending the FY19 hotel occupancy tax agreement with the Museum of International Cultures in the amount of $13,556. What this is the museum had an agreement approved in FY18 for $30,000 for advertising. It was only allocated to the advertising category. The museum has not expended that full amount. In FY18, the 18 contract is expired now, so we cannot go back and amend it. The FY19 contract for hotel occupancy tax funds for the museum does include additional categories, including programming and promotion of the arts category. And so what the museum is requesting is that the council amend the FY19 agreement to allow for expenses in FY18 that fall into the promotion of the arts or programming category. The funds that were not utilized by the museum in FY18 just go back in the hotel occupancy tax fund. And so if you authorize this amendment and increase the amount for FY19 by that $13,556, it is essentially a neutral effect on the hotel occupancy tax fund.
Okay, thank you. Going back to our work session agenda, the next item is item 2A, and that's the city council calendar.
So members of the council, what we've done is given you a calendar for the next 6 months or so. This is for discussion as far as meetings, meeting times, any special events that you would like to have or to calendar out now. One of the things that I would like to point out, the council had indicated a desire to meet with some of the boards for joint meetings. We have looked at those boards and tried to look at when their regular meeting is, so the DCEDC, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Parks and Recreation Board. And so we're looking at a possible joint meeting with the DCEDC at the end of January, and then in February, joint meetings with the Parks and Recreation Board and with P&Z, if those work okay for you. And then, in addition, we do not have a council meeting on January 1st, 2019, but I would ask that the council consider having a workshop on January the 8th. Would like to talk with y'all, come back around on a couple of items that were discussed at the retreat, specifically the Republic Solid Waste contract and then possible charter amendments. Both of those are critical as far as timing, and so we need further direction from the council on those 2 items. So I would ask if you're open to it, that we look at a workshop on January the 8th.
I'm going that way. 6 and 13. And I would suggest also, if we're going to have a meeting about that, that we also need to talk about homestead exemption.
The council at the retreat had said that they would come back and talk about that again, but
I'm telling you, I want it on the same meeting.
Any conflicts on the week of the 21st to the 25th?
Yes.
You going that way?
Yeah, plan your vacations around council meetings.
Conflicts on the week of 31 December through 4 January.
What date are we starting?
First week of January. Wednesday the 2nd.
Church night for me.
Sorry?
Church night for me.
Oh, what about the
Thursday, I can do it.
week of, the week of the city council meeting? You've got, the 17th is State of the City. But the 14th and the 16th. Or the 14th.
What about the 3rd?
I'm free.
3 January? Patrick, they got a nod from everybody. You do.
I'm good.
3 January, workshop. Okay. Republic Waste,
Oh, I can't the 3rd. I can't the 3rd. I knew it sounded. I knew it did.
5th, I mean the 4th.
No. That, No.
So 3rd, 4th, 6th through 13th, you're gone.
Well, no, that week is a different,
You said you were gone from the
Commitment.
6th through the 13th.
right, that's a different commitment.
I
Two
know,
different
but you
things.
said you're gone. You're just not available.
6th to the 13th, I'm gone,
Right.
out of the country,
I understand.
okay?
And the 3rd, 4th, you're not available, are you?
Right, I'm out of the city.
Okay.
Thought it sounded familiar.
How about Monday, the 14th?
That's fine.
She's not here. Well, yes, you're out.
14th's fine with me.
Oh, you're over jet
I
lag.
get back the 13th. I may be jet lagged. Come back.
I mean, it's time sensitive, it's time sensitive, we gotta get it done. If we're gonna get it on the ballot, that's why we have to have it sooner rather than later.
14th?
What time do y'all want to start?
Patrick, you do the 14th? Want to make sure we're all good with 14th? 14 January. Okay? Public waste, city charter, homestead exemption.
Better start early.
6. 6 o'clock. All right.
Are y'all okay with the proposed joint meeting dates so that we can let those boards know?
I'm good with what's indicated. Anybody have any conflicts with any of those indicated?
Well, not right now.
Yeah. So, okay. All right. Anything else on the calendar?
We were looking at a possible town hall meeting in February. However, we are planning to have one in late January on Armstrong Park. And so we don't have a date, although I think we're looking at a Thursday, probably around the 24th. And so then if we try to look at every other month, then I would look at March for another possible town hall meeting, maybe the 21st or the 28th of March.
What was gonna happen on the 21st of February?
Well, we just put it in there as a placeholder, but I wasn't anticipating having one in January, but we do want to have one on Armstrong Park, so we have one in January. But if y'all want to do another one in February, that's fine, or if you just want to wait until, try to go every 2 months for town hall meetings, then we would look at March.
With the bond having passed, I would think that we would need more citizen input on what the direction should be. So, how does that work?
Well, that's what the town hall meeting on Armstrong Park is, for those bond projects with Armstrong Park.
It's just on Armstrong Park?
Right now it is. The other ones are in the works, and the road construction projects we have started design work. So there's really not public input on that. And we haven't gotten to any of the other ones to really need public input at this point yet.
Guess you could leave it as a placeholder or something.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a placeholder right now for March. It may be on the budget, since we've been doing one on the budget, usually around that time, it would probably be on the budget for March.
So you don't have a proposed draft schedule that you want us to look at overall, or you just?
Not overall right now, not yet. Our PIO just started last week. That's one of the tasks that she has is to look at that and come up with a calendar. We just haven't yet. So I'm just trying to get the next couple of months outlined.
Wait, you said the 24th of January?
Probably. We don't have it set yet.
I've got the same conflict there as I do the 22nd.
What, cruise?
Going on vacation.
Where you go? Which cruise? Isn't that all you do?
Just about.
We can live vicariously through you if you tell us where you're going.
Okay, we just need to suspend this because we gotta get going. That's on the agenda, so, we'll get back on it. We've got, the most important thing is the workshop being scheduled for January 14th, and we're gonna hold the indicated joint meetings with the board as indicated unless something else is needed.
Can we add this to our workshop?
Pardon me?
Can we add this to our workshop as well?
Okay, yeah, might as well. Yeah, be a good time to do it.
Yeah, what's our workshop?
Next agenda.
14.
Okay,
There's one, two, add the calendar to it?
yeah, I think we need to. We're going to modify the agenda. We were going into item 2B, talking about rules of procedure. We have 2 judge interviews tonight in executive session. And so that we can stay on schedule and start our city council meeting dead on 7. We're going to move the item 2B to at the end of the city council meeting. And it's best now that we go into executive session and start the interviews of the judges. So time mark is 6:32. We will recess the briefing session and call if one would be dismissed.
Excuse me. You're moving 2B to the end. May I ask if you move it up a little higher in case I have to leave? I have an event for my team members that I have to get to. So I may wind up leaving the council meeting before it's over.
Well, we've added 2 items to the regular agenda.
Is that something we have to come back in here for? This is more of a conversation than it
It's
is-
more of a conversation, we can do it out there. But it is briefing rather than being worked on the individual items.
You're talking about 2B on the briefing?
Yeah. That is Mr. Cook's item that he has to have on the agenda, so,
Yeah, those don't even have to be,
how about we put it right after, let's put that right after the consent, before we go into the items for individual consideration. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so instead of 6:32, it's now 6:34. We are recessing our briefing session and going into executive session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our apologies for starting late. We are convening City Council at exactly 7:15, December 18th, 2018. And first thing on our agenda tonight will be the invocation by Pastor Frank Alegria. Pastor?
Let's bow our heads in a time of prayer. Almighty God, it's Tuesday night and we're in City Council. It's a good thing that we began with prayer because we are doing holy things. It might be city things, it might be something that might be a part of politics, but Lord, at the end, we have been entrusted with this city and we need your divine guidance. So Lord, I always pray for the wisdom upon our mayor, our city manager, our city secretary, the city council, and everyone affiliated, Lord, with this great city. We ask your blessings upon all of them, granting them, Lord, wisdom beyond measure and understanding. giving them, Lord, the ideas and the insight, that whatever decisions are made, Lord, it'll be tempered with love and compassion for the citizens of this great city. So, Lord, as we continue in this night, we ask your blessings upon all of us gathered here and on the conversations and everything, Lord, that ultimately will be done. For this and much more we pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please join me in pledges to our flags. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Please be seated. A little bit of housekeeping so that all of you can stay in touch with the map for tonight. On the consent agenda, we have moved items 4B and 4C to the items for individual consideration. And with the consent of Councilmember Cooks, item 2B is going to be removed from our discussion tonight. We will take that up at another city council meeting. So items 4B and 4C will be the first two items we do under agenda item number 5, which is items for individual consideration. Everybody follow that? So now that you understand it, keep me on track. So the next item under item number 1A, Mayor's Report, I'd like to give you information on what's going to be happening Saturday with our football team, because that concerns everybody. I had a meeting this morning with Dr. Smith, and to find out what is it that he and the district and Coach Samples and the team would like to be done so that we as a city can be in total concert with what's going to be on, because that football team is putting Duncanville back on the map. Understand that in terms of the national rankings, Duncanville beat the number 2 high school team in the nation, and unexpected to do so. So it is a superior achievement, and if you know Coach Samples or have even been around him or heard him, you know, he is a focused individual. And Dr. Smith told me that Coach Samples wants nothing to occur that is going to change his ability to keep his players focused on what's going to be happening Saturday night. So here's what the plan is for the district and what we are going to cooperate in terms of a city bringing everything together for recognition of the team. On Saturday, from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Sandra Meadows parking lot, there's going to be like a tailgate party going on. There's going to be food trucks there. We'll have some fire equipment that will be there. Our police force is going to be doing some escorting. And here's what's key, and this is exactly what Coach Samples wants. This is his direction. At 4:45, the players will depart the building, and the cheerleaders are going to be there. All the parents that can be there are going to be there. They're going to line up from where the players come out of the building to the buses, and it's going to be a cordon. And so the players are going to go through this cordon at 4:45, board the buses, and be gone. That's all Coach Samples wants to occur on Saturday. So that's the plan for Saturday. Regardless of the outcome of Saturday night, Dr. Smith would like a parade. And when he and I discussed this this morning, I consented that this is a total city event. We will do everything possible to work with the city, work with the team, to make this a wonderful community event that's going to put us in the highlight. Because should we, well, you know, I'll quote what Dr. Smith said. He said, "Ain't no when. When we win, when we win, media is going to be all over this city. So it behooves us as a city to do everything we can to put our best foot forward. And so with the team and everything, what I'm asking all of our citizens to do is to let everybody know to come out Saturday if possible, and to be prepared to give the very, very best we can to our team when the parade occurs. Oh, no, parade, the time of the parade. Essentially, once the game is over, these kids are gone because it goes right into the Christmas break. So Dr. Smith said that the possibilities for the parade are sometime the second week of January or the fourth week of January. So those plans are being held in abeyance until sometime after things get all worked out. Okay? So that brings everybody up to date and up to speed on what's going to be happening with our city. It will be an incredible time. Regardless of the outcome, we're going to get national attention. So, Chamber of Commerce, I'll be in touch with Steve and any other organization, groups in the city need really to be made aware to come out and support our team for this particular activity. Okay, any other council members' reports? Councilmember LeBlanc.
Mayor, I just would like to say thank you to, I guess, city manager, assistant city manager, public works, streets, I'm not exactly sure, but there has been some changes to the street lights on my street, and my neighbors have really, I guess, noticed, and they keep telling me, great job, but I know it was you guys that ultimately did it. So whoever the accolades should go to, I just wanted to say thank you. They are very, very bright. I mean, it's just a complete transition to what it used to be. We can really walk outside at night, and whether we have our porch lights on or not, the streets are very illuminated. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jameson.
I just wanted to say Merry Christmas to everybody. That this is the last council meeting and Christmas is in a week. This has been sort of a tough year for my family with the passing of my mother and her illness. But we know that that is a circle of life, and that's the way it is. And so we're looking forward to having a great year next year, and I hope everyone has a blessed and safe holiday, and that you find the reason for the season.
Thank you. One other item of housekeeping. For some time now, we've been trying to get a photo of all the council together at one time. We've finally arranged to do that, and we're going to pull that off at 8 o'clock tonight. So whether we're done or not, we're going to do the pictures at 8 o'clock. And so if we're not done, we'll recess the meeting, do the pictures, and then come back. Okay? So moving on our agenda, I have no cards for citizen input, so we'll skip item number 3. Moving on to, oh, sorry. Sorry. City manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I did have one item tonight. I wanted to recognize one of our newest employees. We have a new public information officer. I'm going to ask April Riley, please stand up. April began with the city of Duncanville last week. She is our new public information officer. She has more than 15 years of experience in public and private sector in marketing and public relations. Most recently, she was a public information officer for the cities of Coppell and for Trophy Club. She has a master's degree in strategic communications from TCU and a bachelor's degree in public relations from UT Arlington. So she brings a lot of experience. She's been here just a week and 2 days, and she's hit the ground running and is already working on a number of initiatives. And she's excited to be working with the school district as well on publicizing the winning of the state championship this weekend. So we're glad to have April on board. Thank you, April.
Okay, back in order, I guess. They got everything under control. Okay, again, skipping item number 3 and item number 2, we have nothing on those on the agenda. Moving to the consent agenda, would City Secretary please read items 4A, 4D, items 4A and 4D.
Item 4A, consider the minutes for the December 4, 2018 City Council regular meeting. Item 4D, consider a resolution authorize the annual procurement of police ammunition from GT Distributors, Inc., Austin, Texas, through Buy Board contract number 524-17 for the contractual discounted price with an estimated annual expenditure amount of $52,560.
Chair will accept a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Please vote. Thank you. Moving on to items, number 5, items for individual consideration. At this time, that's where I'm going. Okay, just a moment. We are not in control, but we're getting there. Okay. All right. Since we have moved items 4B and 4C from consent items to individual for consideration, we will now take those. So items 4B under consent agenda, I will now read, and this is under now item for individual consideration. Consider a resolution supporting the United States Census Bureau for the United States 2020 Census Campaign and formation of a complete count committee. Well, Ms. Allen, would you introduce Ms. Pope, please?
Good evening, Chastity Allen, Benson City Planner. Tonight we have with us Jennifer Pope. She is a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. She's here to talk about the importance of Census 2020 and the possible formation of a complete count committee. We did find the resolution from 2010 census where the city of Duncanville had a resolution of support and also created a complete count committee back in 2010 with that census effort. And so she's here to speak about the 2020 census.
Before she starts.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hey, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Councilman Cooks.
Chastity, you said you found 2010 census. Can you tell us if the city, did the city have any money?
I have no other information other than there was a resolution of support and a resolution creating a complete count committee. I wasn't here in 2010 to know what that included.
Okay, but there was no funding that you could tell?
I don't know, but there was a resolution created by the council, signed by the mayor, in support of the census 2010 and formation of a complete count committee. But I don't know if that committee ever met or if they were funded or anything like that.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember, as far as the funding, I believe in 2010, and as Ms. Pope said earlier, there was grant funding available at that time. So I think a number of cities had that, if there was any funding, it was through grants, but I don't know that if the city had any funding or not. But
I'd be curious to see that resolution, because I was on the council at the time, and I don't recall any committee. Or just,
And there was not there wasn't a committee, and there wasn't any money. There were people that were paid to go door to door, and I knew some of them. There was no committee, and there was no money.
Can you educate us on, is the formation of a complete count committee something new that's been invoked since the 2010?
Well, the one thing that's going to happen that's different from the 2010 is there are going to be 3 ways that people can do their census, fill out their census survey. Of the 3 ways, it's going to be by on the internet, by telephone, as well as by mail. They will start receiving information around March the 23rd. a postcard comes out at that time with a identifier. Even if they don't get the postcard, they will be able to actually just go online and fill out their census form, and they will validate it based on their address. Another thing that's going to be a little bit different that we didn't have in 2010 is the fact that Duncanville is going to have an area census office. That area census office will employ about 50 employees inside the office, but outside the office, there's going to be about 1,200 to 1,500 employees that will be assigned to that office as well. And they can start filling out their applications. We will start pulling applications in February. So those are going to be the major changes. That we did a test in 2018, and we had a 92% response rate just by people filling out their information online. So we're thinking that that's going to be a really big change to have people to fill their information online, or even to call in to have it done and not wait to fill out the paper form.
Councilmember Thomas, you had some concerns over this.
Yes, my concerns are that it's unfunded. And you can say that we volunteer, they're volunteers, but staff, they're not volunteers. It's taking their time away from their duties. So any diversion of staff resources to this complete census committee, I'm against. I think if the business model, if a business wants to form one of these, that's fine. If a community or community leaders want to form this, that's fine. But we as a city, as a government, it's not budgeted, and it will distract from the staff time and the funding. So I'm going to be voting against this resolution.
And I just want to say that we would be a liaison for the Complete Count Committee. And once the Complete Count Committee is formed, they will decide who they want their chair to be. So it doesn't have to be a city person or anything like that to head that up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think you did a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
I think you have a very professional manner, and just by your manners, I'm questioning. But yeah, I just appreciate your professionalism.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
To follow on with Councilmember Thomas's concerns, when you briefed us earlier about this, the appointment of the members, is it coming from me with input from the council members themselves? When you briefed us about the processes back in November that would be associated with the office and this committee, these 15 or so people that we choose, how much interface is there actually between this committee and staff?
Actually, that's going to be per city case. Like I said, I would be a liaison, or what other colleagues would be there. So however often they decide to meet, either once a month or every 3 months, to talk about what they're going to strategize and how they're going to reach the hard to count, we could actually be a liaison for them. So really, the city staff would be very minimal, if it even need to have a city staff. What I foresee the city staff, where they come into play, is sort of just knowing what's going on with the Complete Count Committee, because invariably you want to report back to the city council and let them know what's going on. So you want to have a liaison or someone that would be able to do that, and best suited would probably be a city staff member to be able to keep you guys abreast of what's going on in the city.
There's no day-to-day interface between the committee and anybody from staff.
No, it's not.
I would see, for what you're explaining, it appears to me that you're the point of contact, and because it's all about the census.
Well, I would like to have a point of contact from the city, as well as knowing who is going to be the chairman of your Complete Count Committee. Because ideally, like I said before, what I would envision doing, and this is just me personally, cities are already out there forming their Complete Count Committees. They're doing fantastic things. So I want to share that with other Complete Count Committees so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, and they can do some different things that other cities are doing.
Okay, Councilmember Jameson.
The problem with this, it kind of reminds me of companies when the marketing department really doesn't talk to the people who are doing it. Because cities aren't the same.
Right.
And when you have a high Spanish-speaking population, they don't go online, they don't call in, and they need to have people that go door to door.
Well, that's
No,
where
that's
you're
true.
Right, that is correct, and that's why we're so focused on having a complete count committee.
Okay, wait a
I
minute,
know-
wait a minute. I'm not through.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
And the complete council committee, that's something your group decided on. And so the city council is the governing body for our city. We didn't decide whether we wanted to have that.
Exactly.
And so that's something we need to decide, because there's a difference. This is hard work for those of you who haven't been through one. It's hard work in trying to get people to respond and to be counted. And so there's a paid group, and they're paid to do it. So what they're talking about is a volunteer group, to volunteer to do the work and to go out there. And as far as like saying the mayor appoints it, no, your group doesn't tell us that the mayor appoints a committee. The council decides whether we want to appoint a committee, number one, and number two, who's going to be on it, and number three, what they're going to do.
Exactly.
So we don't just take someone coming in and telling us that this is what we're going to do. This is about counting people, and we need to do it the best and most efficient way for our city. And from the ones that I talked to that worked on the 2010 census, it's hard work, because you have to go out there
They're
and,
walking streets.
and get the people to respond. They don't just respond.
Now that, we're talking about two different groups of individuals. We have field workers that actually go out. Once we find the people that don't at the end have not completed their census form, we do have individuals that go out to go and knock on doors. Your complete count committee does not knock on doors.
Right, we got that.
Yes,
They're
we
volunteer.
just want them to strategize and give ideas of things that can do, like having, if it's Hispanic, and I know in a lot of Hispanic communities, they are Catholic, so maybe having a priest that works with the hard to count in that area on the complete count committee to sort of give us some ideas of what can be done to get the
You're
individuals
leaving
to fill
out
out
one
their
big
form.
thing.
Yes, ma'am.
What's in it for them? You know, they're not getting paid.
Right.
What's in it for them? You've got to have some benefits and values. There's no benefit for them to go out there and do all this.
What we look at is the apportionment that the state will receive. We're looking at infrastructure, streets, for your city streets and things like that from an accurate count, as well as we're looking at, the last thing is to count everyone only once so that they can have those services that trickles down into each city so that the services will not go away.
I understand that from a government perspective.
Right.
However, we're talking about getting people to encourage other people to sign up. Right now, in this country, we're having a great division on people who are citizens and people who are not. So it would take a lot to get someone, I know because they call me. They call me about a problem they have at school. I have nothing to do with schools, but they still call me because they're afraid. And so to get them to come forward to be counted when all this other stuff is going on, this isn't an easy task. And it isn't, this is a big deal.
Right, it is.
And you know, they don't just go, oh, I'm here, and by the way, I have all these kids and my relatives, and we're all here. It's not that easy. I understand that you get money depending on how many people you're here. I understand what our benefit is.
Right.
The problem is, it needs to be defined what the benefit is for those people to respond and to come forward. They need a benefit.
Right, I understand that. Yes, ma'am.
So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And as far as like, I agree with Councilmember Thomas on the funding and the time, because this is a federal program. So it's not ours. And so we need some help in terms of the funding and those positions, I think.
Right.
You mentioned when we were in briefings that there's possible grant funding available.
There is funding, as I said before, where there are entities out there that are wanting to actually give funding for the 2020 census. And as I mentioned before, just right off the hand, I know that Microsoft is one of the companies that's wanting to give funding. So there is, and I can send that over so that you guys would have that form and go into the website and see which entities are able to do funding for your city.
Councilmember Schwartz.
I guess I may be oversimplifying it, but to me, there's a benefit to the city for every person that's counted. And so if we have people who will volunteer to help give ideas on ways to count, let's do it. Let's let them volunteer. And that's what I see this committee as being, is just a group of volunteers. So anyway, I'm in favor of it.
Councilmember Cooks.
Help me understand why the resolution is needed. And that's the whole purpose of this item, just a resolution.
Ideally, what normally happens when a city does a resolution and the citizens know that a resolution has been done, it just lets them know that the city is actually supporting the support of the 2020 census or whatever census it is. And when they hear that, it just puts it out. The more they hear about the census, the better it is.
This is going to happen regardless if we vote on it or not. Regardless if we do resolution, this is going to happen regardless, which is a good thing for it to happen.
Yes.
I think the only cautious that we will need to be being aware of is that citizens then will start calling when people are knocking on their doors, wanting to know who's at their door if they didn't fill out the census. So, and they come back, if I recall, more than one time if they don't get you to make sure you're still there. So it's going to happen regardless whether we do a resolution or not. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, it is
All
going
right,
to
thank
happen.
you.
It's mandated.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Following on with what Councilmember Cooks just said, we are or are not under obligation to form a complete count committee. Don't leave yet.
Okay.
We are or are not under an obligation to the government to form a complete count committee.
You are not under obligation. Ideally, because there is an area census office going to be located in your city, we would like you to form a complete count committee. It would just be an extra added support for that census office that's going to help, because we'll need jobs to put the information out about the jobs. Different things that's going to be in, how can we reach those hard-to-count areas? Who are the trusted voices in Duncanville that can help us get the information out to the hard-to-count areas as well?
The resolution, as I read it, does not mention the complete count committee. Where, I'm missing it somewhere. The last whereas. There, okay, sorry. I'm going to ask the council, is there any, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Hugman.
For Ms. Pope, I have a question, and also for Chastity. If there is not a complete count committee, I'm assuming that there's still going to be a lot of questions coming from the public as to the census, and that's going to come to Chastity, is that correct, to us, to staff? So without a committee, then I think there's probably going to be still a fair, or maybe even more staff work involved without having a volunteer committee to assist. I think that's going to just be a reality that that's going to come to us. Is that a true assessment?
Yeah, I would state so, and certainly we would direct them to Ms. Pope as appropriate, and additional information that's available on the census website. I know that when we spoke previously with regard to some of the initiatives that the Complete Count Committee would undertake, the idea is primarily to connect into existing initiatives that the city already has. So having a table at National Night Out, having a booth at the 4th of July Parade, things like that, where there's already existing outreach, working with Doug Sisk with the police department and his activities, just making sure he has census information. So plugging into existing initiatives and existing activities where appropriate, which would help, of course, with resources and, of course, of time as well.
I'd like to make a motion.
Any further discussion? Well, I was going to ask a comment of council for something to consider. Is there any way, I think what Mr. Hugman just mentioned, we don't want to place any greater burden on staff than necessary. And if there is no committee, then a great possibility it's going to fall on staff, which we really don't want to happen.
They call us, Barry. They call us.
Is there any compromise language that we can put in this resolution that would be acceptable to council?
Mayor, even if we pass the resolution and it asks for us to have a committee, and if there's no volunteers, we still would have complied to say that there could be a committee if there was just no volunteers. So I don't think it's a need to remove it from there if it's standard. Because again, we're talking about people who's going to, either someone's going to volunteer or not volunteer, regardless if we have it there or not.
Okay, Ms. Jameson? Or Ms. Thompson?
My concern is that if the citizens don't volunteer, the staff will do the work. And if we don't have this resolution, staff can just say, here's the contact information that you need to contact this person in the Census Bureau. Otherwise, we're creating a program that the staff is going to have to initiate and do. So today, when we do a committee, we have a staff liaison, they put together the agenda, they put together, they do everything. In fact, Doug Sisk will, if he's on the committee, he will be out in, representing Duncanville at the parades and at the National Night Outs, and that's all staff. If there's no, and frankly, that's who's really going to be doing the work. Citizens may show up, but they're not going to be putting things together. And one of the issues was, stuffing things in a water bill. Well, that costs money. I know that I can't request the city to stuff anything in the water bill because it costs money. That's why I can't do it. So that's the reality, is that, so you want people to conform to the census, right? But that's a federal government. We pay taxes for them to get that done. City pays taxes at the city level to do the roads, fire department, the police, but we don't do it to get people out to comply with census. So that's my issue, is that it will fall back on the city staff and all the resources that they have to bring to bear. And frankly, that's just it's undefined. So it can be as much or as little as whoever's directing that at that time. And I'm a small government type of person. I don't, and I don't like unfunded mandates. And so we would be creating an unfunded mandate. And I just don't agree with that.
Can you help us out with that, Ms. Pope, or not?
Well, ideally, if you do decide to create a complete count committee, we already have the agenda. We do the training. We, at the first meeting, we decide the complete count committee would decide how often they want to meet and what, if they want to break down into like subcommittees, or if they want to just keep it as one general complete count committee, to sort of strategize and see, to formulate those plans for filling out their census forms.
So Mayor,
If that's the case, then why did you even come to us? Why didn't the federal government do the committee, do everything. Because coming to us, like, the mayor is thinking that he appoints a committee. No, they can't tell you to appoint in a committee. They can't tell you to do that. And the committee, you're saying who listens to who in the community. Well, maybe who I listen to, he doesn't.
Right.
You know, so that's up to interpretation. And so I guess that's my thinking too. In 2010, you just did your job. You just came in and did it and counted, and we supported it. And there was no committee, there was no funding. They just came in and did it. And, you know, as far as like having committees and subcommittees, we have enough. You know how the federal government has enough? We have enough of committees and things that we have to get done. And so the census, that is your job. That is what you're coming in here, and we support you. But as far as having another committee, and see, like saying that, I know from the people in my district and some across the city, we have a lot of elderly. They're not all on the internet, and they're not going to respond that way to a form. So to me, they just need to get in and, I guess, make your sweep, get as many as you can. The ones you can't, then go back again, and these you're going to have to visit. Because I don't think by having someone tell people that have issues about, like they don't respond to city government. You think they're going to go, oh, let me respond to the federal government? No. So, I mean, that's just what it is. This just sounds good.
Yes, ma'am.
You have to make them,
Right.
Some people respond.
Right.
And you still can't make them if they don't want to.
Exactly.
It's not illegal not to respond. So, I mean,
And the reason we were asking, that we're going around and asking the cities, overwhelmingly the cities did form complete count committees in 2010. So because it was so successful, we were asking the cities to do it again.
okay, we didn't do that, so I don't know where that came up with, because we didn't have a committee.
Just for information, when we discuss this, this is not the normal type of committee, in that once the committee decides who their chairperson is going to be, or whatever going to be, that it's not going to be subject to, is there a quorum, and all the normal types of things that we looked at when we form a committee through the city.
Right,
We
and
disassociated with any rules of order. There wouldn't be anything about a quorum. Whoever shows up
Well,
for a
nobody's
meeting
worried
shows
about
up for a
that.
meeting.
Are they going to meet at your office?
They can meet wherever they like. Because they're in Duncanville, they can meet here in Duncanville.
I understand they can meet in Duncanville. I'm saying, are they meeting at your office?
What do you mean, are they meeting at my
The
office?
committee.
The lease, you're talking about the lease space that they have leased here in
Oh,
the
you're
city.
talking about the ACO. Once the ACO opens, then they could possibly meet there, because it won't open though until June, July, or August of next year.
Okay,
Yeah,
because,
I thought you meant on Fuller Boulevard.
well, I'm
in
just saying,
Irving.
because if they met at a city facility, then it does involve the city.
No, I see that they would be meeting at the ACO.
Yes, we can possibly get there
Building
where they
space.
could meet there, or any place they would
Somebody
like. That's gonna
plan-
be up to the complete count committee, where they would like to meet.
Mr. Cooks?
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion, and if, this way it'll carry or fail, and to consider a resolution supporting United States Census Bureau for U.S. 2020 Census Campaign Formation and a Complete Count Committee. I'd like to make that motion.
We have a motion to approve
Second.
item 4B, and we have a second.
I'd like to offer an amendment.
An amendment's being offered.
Mayor, I'd like to, in the last whereas, I would like to strike the word form, and for it to read, the City of Duncanville will support a complete count committee with members comprised of community leaders and organizations brought together to design an outreach plan for hard-to-count areas or populations in their communities with members of the community, period, after community, and striking the rest of that sentence, striking with members of the committee to be appointed by the mayor of Duncanville.
Did you say strike that part?
Yes, strike the last part and take out form and put in support.
Could you read it one more time, please?
Okay, it would read, whereas the city of Duncanville will support a complete count committee with members comprised of community leaders and organizations brought together to design an outreach plan for hard-to-count areas or populations in their community, period. And I'd like to speak to my amendment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to modify the wording, the last whereas of the resolution, and we have a second, and you'd like to speak to that.
Yes, we all agree that we need to count. Where we disagree is how do we support this? So if there are community leaders that want to be on the committee, then they can form this. So we have some stellar community groups. We have the Rotary Club, we have the Lions Club, we have PTA, we have businesses, and so they can support this, and we would just be passing this initiative off to them, and they will form their own committee. They know who the leaders are in the community. They form their own leaders, and they will take this and see the mission through, and without having to create without having us, the city council, forming an unfunded mandate.
So we have a motion and a second to amend the last whereas to the wording that Councilmember Thomas has articulated. Please vote. That amendment is approved. Go back to the motion, and the original motion was to approve the resolution. So Mr. Cooks, the motion as you recommended or made the motion to approve has now been amended. So the motion to approve the resolution as amended is now up to vote. Please vote. Motion is unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Ms. Pope, thank you very much. We appreciate your help and all that. It is photo time. Exactly, let's call it 8 o'clock. We're going to recess City Council for an undetermined length of time until we can have our photos taken, then we will reconvene. Thank you. We are reconvening our City Council, and we are moving to item 4C, which was originally under consent agenda, which is now under items for original consideration. Item 4C reads, consider resolution approving the first renewal of the automated registration hold services agreement between the City of Duncanville and Red Flex Traffic Systems, Inc. for the verification of delinquent civil penalties for a period of 5 years from the date of City Council approval. Mr. Summerlin.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2006, we installed red light cameras, and in 2011, the city approved a 10-year extension of the agreement to operate the cameras. And at that time, or shortly thereafter, we passed an agreement to enter in with Red Flex and with Dallas County a scofflaw program. At that time, we had between $5 and $6 million of outstanding red light tickets that we were unable to collect, and the scofflaw helped us over a series of period of years to collect some of that, but a lot of that was already too old to collect. And so this is a renewal of the original 5-year contract, has 2 additional 5-year renewals to continue the scofflaw program. In FY18, we collected gross a little over 2 million in red light tickets, and of that amount, 41% or 860,000 was collected because of the scofflaw holds, and the amount that we paid to Red Flex for processing those flags was approximately 104,000. And of course, those fees get deducted before we pay our 50% to the state, because we do pay 50% after all costs associated with running the cameras to the state of Texas.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Open it up to discussion. Ms. Thomas?
I understand that this is for the scofflaw part only and not for the red lights, and that contract is coming up in 2021. But I have, this is an issue that I've taken a stand on from the beginning against red light cameras. And personally, I think it's against the Constitution, because the person who's driving the vehicle is not getting the ticket. It's the person who owns the vehicle. And there's no way of proving who is driving it. And I understand it's a civil matter, but when you threaten someone that they can't have their car registered in the county if they don't pay their ticket, then that takes on a punitive aspect to it outside of a criminal court, which I think it turns our judicial system on its head. And I do know that there is a lot of organizations and groups that are opposing the red light cameras, and that is, like Houston no longer allows them. I think Arlington did away with them. I think Fort Worth, they didn't get enough signatures to get it on their ballot, but they were very close. So there's but they don't do the scofflaw. They just do the red light cameras. You can get the tickets, but not have to worry about paying them in Fort Worth, from what I understand. But I would like to share with you Governor Abbott's a statement that he made in his a policy paper that he put out when he was running for governor this past time, called Safeguarding and Securing and Serving. And one of the things that he said is that red light cameras are an automated device for red light traffic enforcement. They are expensive. Studies indicate that they may increase accidents where deployed, and they pose constitutional issues. Now, Greg Abbott's not only our governor, but he is our past attorney general for the state of Texas. I think he knows what he's talking about. And this is from studies that he has put together. He says Texas should ban the use of these devices by preempting local authorities from using them. So I continue to be against anything associated with red light cameras. You know, as a citizen, I benefit from the revenue. I understand that. I understand all the benefits that the revenue has done for Duncanville. But I don't think that our civil liberties should have a price on them. So I will be voting against this.
Seeing as how there's no further discussion, please vote on the motion. We have a no decision. Motion to approve fails. Moving on to item 5A, under items for individual consideration. Consider resolution authorizing approval of an economic development performance agreement by the Duncanville Community and Economic Development Corporation, parens DCEDC, to Obadiah Inc., doing business as Ideal Floors, in an amount up to 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,000, for an LED pole sign in order to expand their business located at 1010 North Duncanville Road in Duncanville, Texas. Ms. James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. As the mayor just stated, that is the grant request from Sean Hames, which is the owner of Ideal Floors. He is asking for assistance with his new pole sign that will be at his new business expansion location at 1010 North Duncanville Road. A little bit on the company's background. Ideal Floors has been in Duncanville since 2011. Sean Hames purchased the business from his father over a year ago. Ideal Floors has grown since then into 4 additional locations, which include Garland, Plano, North Richland Hills, and Fort Worth. They provide high-quality flooring, cabinets, and countertops to their customers at an affordable price. Ideal Floors is keeping their current location that everybody knows here in Duncanville at 638 East Highway 67, but they are expanding their cabinet portion of their business to 1010 North Duncanville Road. Right here, we do have the new location up here with the map, and you will see that here on the left is Duncanville Road. This is obviously north of I-20. You see Fair Meadows Drive, North Main Street. And so this is the business location right there. This is DeFord's, just north of that business. In terms of the grant details, the signage grant program was approved by City Council and the DCEDC. It does pay up to 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,000 to replace, update, or install a new commercial business sign. You can see that is one requirement of the program is to submit bids. They did submit 3 bids, and you'll see those range from anywhere from $33,000 to over $64,000. On December 10th, the DCEDC board unanimously approved a reimbursement grant to Ideal Floors in the amount of 70% of the actual cost, not to exceed $5,000 for the LED pole sign there located at the new expansion on 1010 North Duncanville Road. As the requirement, one of the requirements in the agreement, obviously the pole sign has to meet all city and state code ordinances. This has already been discussed with the building permit office, and it does meet code. The building permit office will also be responsible once the applicant obtains a permit, a sign permit. Once it's erected, they will go out and inspect the pole sign and ensure that it does meet proper code. Once they do receive a green tag on the sign, then that will be turned into the Economic Development Department, and then reimbursement will be paid accordingly. So at this point, Mr. Hames is present this evening. If you all have any questions, he'll be happy to come forward.
Any questions from council? Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, please vote. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd just like to thank him for finding a place in Duncanville to keep your business here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you staying. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5B. Consider a resolution amending the FY 18-19 hotel occupancy tax grant agreement between the City of Duncanville and the Museum of International Cultures in the amount of $13,556 for a total not to exceed $68,556 to directly enhance and promote tourism and the convention and hotel industry, allowing for additional reimbursement of expenses incurred in FY 17-18 and amending the FY 18-19 hotel occupancy tax budget. Ms. James.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. Just to do some background, at the request of the Museum of International Cultures, as you remember, the City Council approved an FY 17-18 hotel occupancy tax grant to the museum in the amount of $30,000 for the advertising category only. This FY 17-18 agreement expired on September 30th, on 2018, and the museum did not utilize $13,556 of the advertising grant. When the grant funds are not fully utilized, the unused portion of that grant goes back into the hotel occupancy tax fund. So it's not a loss. It can be used for future projects or grants. All expenditures of these funds, as you all know, are restricted and must be used according to state law. In terms of the grant request, as the mayor read earlier, since the FY 17-18 agreement has expired, the Museum of International Cultures is requesting an amendment to the existing grant for the FY 18-19 year to include expenses that occurred previously in FY 17-18. The FY 18-19 approved grant includes the promotion of the arts category. The museum is requesting the FY 18-19 grant agreement to be increased by $13,556 to receive reimbursement for production costs or the promotions of the arts category, as stated above, that occurred in FY 17-18. In terms of funding, the history of the funding as well as the current request, you can see up there on the screen that for fiscal year FY 18-19, they were awarded $55,000. And again, one of the categories was for promotion of the arts, which their production costs could fit into that category. And in 17-18, they did have $13,566 unused. Their additional request is to use that $13,000, but in order for the expenses from the past fiscal year to be eligible for reimbursement under the promotion of the arts category, the current FY 18-19 grant will have to be amended. If awarded the requested amount, this would increase the existing FY 18-19 Museum of International Cultures Hotel Occupancy Tax Grant to a total from $55,000 to a total of $68,556. This is a net. This has really no. It's a neutral effect or a neutral impact to the budget, since those funds that were not used were simply put back into the budget for future use. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions, and also Mary Faye Camp, who is the president of the museum, is here to answer any questions that the council might have as well.
Any questions from council? As she's coming, just to make sure that I understand, what we're asking for is very advantageous to the museum. Rather than losing this 13,000 some odd dollars, that those funds that were not used in the last year are going to be allocated to the future year, and what we're asking is to literally just change the dollar amount for the funding going forward for 18-19. So it's to a great advantage to the museum to be able to use these funds rather than taking them back into the overall hot fund.
Yes, and those funds would be used to cover past year's expenses.
Right.
And the past year's expense, we have submitted invoices that had been paid, but they just didn't fall under the pure promotional things, but they were for upkeep of the museum, some equipment that we needed. And then, of course, the air conditioners that you all approved came out of this year's budget,
Right.
18-19. And we really appreciate it because we made it through the summer with the help of my husband buying portable air conditioners for us to live. But it's working very nicely now.
Okay. Ms. Jameson.
So the $16,444 difference last year you received?
Yes.
So there's
we were paid in full the first and second quarters, and the third and fourth quarters are being withheld because they audited our account and determined that some of the receipts for which we had asked for reimbursement didn't fall under the restrictions of the grant that we had been awarded.
Okay, I guess I have a question. You've done this before with Dallas and their hotel motel tax. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
But they operate completely different than we do. That we would apply for funding, and it covered a myriad of things, you know, from facilities and staffing and all that and then it was an advance, and you turned in receipts after the fact.
Well, I don't understand why we're different, because hotel motel tax is a state tax. So why would we have different rules and handle it differently? Do you feel like that,
Well, I don't know, Duncanville handled them differently a number of years ago when we had the Arts Association. It was an advance, and we paid the last, I can't remember, it was 15 or 25% at the end of the year. But this is reimbursement
right?
for what you've expended. So we expended that amount of money, but we didn't get reimbursed for it. And that's what we're asking for now, is to receive that,
Well-
the grant was approved. We just would like to be able to collect the full amount.
The grant,
And Ms. Mary Faye, let me ask, you said that it wasn't paid because you were audited and the receipts, there was something, an issue with the receipts, I'm assuming. But now you're saying that you've submitted the receipts and it's gonna be paid. Did the receipts change?
No, the receipts didn't change. They're
So-
just
They were disallowed.
amending it to come under the ruling of this year's grants, because, and this was my inability to not pick up on what happened, the grant turned out that we had signed that only was going to reimburse for media promotion. Well, $30,000 for a little museum, like, we didn't need to put that in the magazines that go into the hotels and whatever.
So
We
the
needed equipment and other things
Right.
to continue to operate.
So the receipts have just kind of been allocated to a different column or a different category?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
But they're defining advertising as a particular kind of medium?
Well, that's what was being reimbursed, was, it had to be media-type reimbursement and our social media, some of the costs there. And we needed it to be a broader scope, and so this present year, we've negotiated for additional things, and that's why this reimbursement will come out of this year's.
Well,
But it's the money that was turned back from last year.
right, I understand that. I'm just saying, and you negotiated it. Who do you negotiate with to get a broader interpretation?
Well, with economic development, because they manage the hotel motel. And the grant that we signed in 17-18 was not broad enough to cover what the specific needs that we had.
But it is now.
Yes.
Mr. Ogman?
So let me try to clarify what Ms. Cam is talking about. And as you know, each year, different organizations come forward with an application for hotel occupancy tax funds. Within their application, they delineate what they intend to use those funds for under the categories that are eligible under hotel occupancy tax funds. The Museum of International Cultures for 17-18 proposed their grant application for $30,000 in the advertising category. So that was what was approved, and that's what that agreement was set up for. They did not expend that much in 17-18. So, but what they did not ask for was funding for promotion of the arts, so funding reimbursement for production costs. So when we met with them and talked with them, we said, if you can get the agreement amended to include that category, then, and get the council to approve going back to 17-18, then you can get reimbursed for those funds. But that category was not in the grant agreement, not in the grant application by the museum in 17-18. They did include that category in the 19 agreement, so it is there. So what we're asking is that the council approve increasing this year's budget for hotel occupancy tax funds and allowing them to go back to 17-18 under that category of promotion of the arts to get reimbursed for eligible expenses that fit within that category.
I think we understand that, City Manager. That's not what we're talking about. We understand the money part. What we're talking about is the category. So if you had come back to us before September 30th, then we could have amended that?
And it would have come out of last
17-18
year's money,
proposal?
that's my understanding.
Is that correct?
If the agreement had been, if they had come back during fiscal year 18, we could have amended it.
Okay, well, I didn't know that we weren't gonna, the invoices that we had, I didn't know we're not gonna be covered until we came to the end of it.
We were working with the museum for several months, going over the receipts and explaining what could be covered. Some of the receipts that were submitted were not eligible. Some of them were duplicates of things that had already been paid. And so we were working for several months with the museum on trying to get the funding, all of the funding allocated to them, but they were not able to come forward with enough under the advertising category.
Is that correct, that you turned in the receipts and?
Yeah, but we turned in things that were facility upkeep and that sort of thing, and they were not covered in this. And that's why the funding was withheld, and so we didn't get funding for the third and fourth quarter. So we haven't had funding since last March.
So, because this was interpreted only as advertising?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know, but I think that we need to have some kind of help or instruction or something, because, you know, hotel motel taxes just sit there, and they should be used. And so if there's a misunderstanding or some direction or guidance, then we need to figure out how to do that so that...
Well, there was categories that I was not aware that we could submit, and so that's my mistake, but there are categories, you know, for arts, and we certainly have a rotating art exhibit with opening nights and that sort of thing. So we had a number of things for which I turned in receipts, but it didn't reflect in the grant that we had.
The application lists all the categories on there, all of the eligible categories, and we work with all the applicants to try to get them to apply for any of the eligible categories for the programming that they feel that they're going to be doing in the upcoming year. So we work very closely with all of the applicants to try to get a very complete application, seeking all of the eligible categories that they can and all of the eligible funding that they can achieve. So I think we have done that, and if there was, you know, misinterpretation along the line, but I think we have really worked very hard with the museum to try to get the amount of money that they were approved for, to get that allocated to them. But we also have to work within what the approved agreement was.
Yes, I've heard your side several times, so I understand where you're coming from. I do. Excuse me. Excuse me. Well, excuse me. Please, can we have a quiet, Mayor?
Yeah,
you won't get to speak out. I don't care who you are.
if an individual in the audience desires to speak, they need to be recognized by council, but please have decorum. Thank you. Continue, Ms. Jameson.
Yes. I guess my question is, because when you were located in the Linguistics Center and she worked with the Dallas Hotel Motel tax, and so these issues didn't come up?
No, because it was a broader scope. We didn't have the,
On what
we
you
didn't
said?
sign the kind of contract. That was, the presentation was different. We would apply for a broad scope, and you could charge off facility costs and that sort of thing, and there's not a place for that on the grant. But I think with this new grant for this year, there are some categories that we utilize that we can, with some equipment and some building upkeep, that we certainly utilize funds, and we've just had to pay it out of our resources. And it's really made a hardship this year because two of our very prominent donors, two of them have gone into memory care, and so obviously their donations this year didn't come, so it's really put a panic for us to lose $100,000, you know, in those kinds of grants. And then here, with a mistake on my part, we didn't get the full amount of the grant of the city.
Well, I just want to be as friendly as the Dallas Hotel Motel tax. I want to work with someone, and if there's a misunderstanding or in the way that you word it, that, you know, that we can come and make sure that this is clear and that maybe the scope needs to be broader.
Well, I think the scope has become broader, and
The way you,
the application that we signed this year for the grant is broadened from what we had the year before.
so you don't anticipate having the same?
No, we shouldn't have.
Okay, well, that's good. That's what my concern was, is that going forward, that we would not.
I don't think we will. I think that we will, under the provisions of this year's grant, we'll be able to go forward and substantiate those things that are covered in the grant application.
Okay.
And Ms. Thomas?
Yeah, Mrs. Camp, are you happy with the resolution tonight, with the proposal?
Well, if you vote on it, yes.
So, because I'm getting some controversy up here, and I'm just wondering if you're happy with it, and...
Oh, I've met with Ms. James and Mr. Hugman, and we've worked through how we can get reimbursed for that. So, yes, I mean, this would be satisfactory to us.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Seeing there's no further discussion, please vote.
Did we?
We had a motion to approve. The motion is passed.
Thank you. And I hope those that don't support us will visit us and perhaps have a new opinion of us in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Camp. I've screwed up. Ms. Sliger, I failed to recognize you.
We don't have to do that.
I know I don't have to, but she asked to be recognized.
Well,
I know
maybe we should take a vote
we're
from the
after the
council.
fact. It's, and so I want to pay respect to Ms. Sliger. She asked to speak. And I'm very sorry. I apologize. Things moved beyond. If you wish to speak, please come forward.
Gail Sliger, 1405 South Main, Duncanville, Texas. While I understand and appreciate that this was a good resolution for the museum, the discussion held here, we failed to recognize that when the Chamber of Commerce came forward a number of years ago with a very simple request from hotel motel tax for $12,500. It was denied because they wanted them to turn in the receipts first. At that time, I left the council saying I would never work for this city again. The discussion held and the way the city manager was addressed tonight is absolutely disgraceful. He is our employee. He works for all the citizens of this community, and I think the disrespect shown to him tonight is a terrible mark against our city. He works very hard, all the staff does, and we need to show some respect there. And I'm sorry that I disrupted the council, but this needs to be said. We need to treat all the applicants that come here equally. I do not care whether it's for $30,000, $60,000, or $12,500. Whatever we decide to do, we should do on our own. Should not reflect what the city of Dallas does. We don't follow their rules, and they don't follow ours. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 5C, which is taking necessary action as a result of executive session. We do have action to initiate. City Attorney?
Yes, Mayor and
please
Council.
assist us with this language on this motion.
Yes, this is in reference to the agenda item involving the State Office of Administrative Hearings, docket number 458-19-0196, being Duncanville versus Greedy's Bar and Grill. For the members of the audience, this is a matter where the City of Duncanville has protested the renewal of one of our local businesses' operation having a Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission license for mixed beverage with food and beverage use for property at 303 South Cedar Ridge Drive. As a result of numerous complaints and numerous responses by our city police department, you ask that we file this protest, and we have diligently prosecuted this along with our very fine police department. There was a hearing scheduled for late last week. On the eve of that hearing, I received a phone call from their attorney where they agreed to surrender their license. We have given you in executive session that proposed agreement, and I would like to have you consider the following motion. A motion to approve a settlement of the City of Duncanville's protest to the renewal of DeGreedy's One Entertainment LLC TABC license for mixed beverage restaurant permit with food and beverage, late hours permit, and cartage permit for premises at 303 South Cedar Ridge Drive, whereby said licensee agrees and shall surrender such license to the TABC effective January 12, 2019, and authorize the city manager to sign.
Chair will accept the motion and approve. The motion is read. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? Please vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's no further action as a result of executive session.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6A, receive the Economic Development Quarterly Report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. As we always like to start out, we like to go over the FY18 work plan items to update the council in terms of where we are currently. Objective 2.06, which was created tourism program, that was initially focused on the conference center. That has been completed. The conference center feasibility study was presented to City Council, as you know, during one of your prior briefing sessions. Objective 2.07, increase and improve marketing and branding. The status is ongoing. The City Council has, as you know, provided feedback on the draft logos, and the revisions will be brought back to City Council for consideration in January. Moving on, in terms of Capstone 5 Grow Duncanville, Objective 2.08 was to increase visitor transportation options to downtown. This, at the current status, is ongoing. The field house staff does offer this option up to its customers that come in through the event organizers. At this point, they have not had an interest in this option, so that's currently where the status is. Objective 2.09 is work with EON to create a list of company leads. This has been ongoing. Staff has provided potential leads to EON in the past. In terms of the business retention and expansion efforts, staff has worked with 20 businesses throughout the quarter. They've provided everything from design incentive grant information. They've helped to identify new sites for business locations and expansions. They provided traffic count information, which a number of the businesses find that very helpful as well. In terms of the property owners and property managers, staff has worked with 9 different ones. These also include providing leads to the different, we have a number of vacancies, as you know, in our shopping centers, and so that's something that we always really try to do is through the business registration or the building registration program, and even prior to that, we try to provide leads to these shopping centers and vacant buildings on potential businesses to be housed in their locations. In terms of the market update for the quarter, there was over 800,000 commercial space leased or built, 43 new businesses, and 4 business expansions. What you can see up there is you can see the Ideal Floors. Obviously, we talked about that earlier. That's a business expansion. 10 Hagen, that was a business expansion as well. As you all know, you supported the grant, the fence grant for them. And then also this is a new Mexican restaurant. I do want to say that this is on Clark Road, over where the BBVA, the Compass Bank, is located in that shopping center. Just so you know, if you plan on going and trying their food out, they are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. But other than that, I'm sure that they would definitely welcome you to come in and try out their food. In terms of developers, business brokers and developer engagement, we did engage 20 different developers and brokers, and what this resulted in, and we are very proud of this, is that we had a number of new developers that we brought to the community and to highlight the different opportunities that we have here in Duncanville. One building has been closed on and purchased. That is the bank building there in front of the Subway and Thibodeau's on Cedar Ridge. And then there's also another building that is under contract from a new developer that had never invested in Duncanville before. So we're very happy about that. We continue to work with restaurants. Obviously, we continue to engage the ones that we've talked about before, as well as we are engaged with a burger bar restaurant right now that will offer burgers and then also draft beer. It is in a location in the downtown, and that's something that that could be a nice addition to the area. In addition, we've also reached out to Santa Fe Cattle Company. That's another steakhouse. They are not located in Texas, but they are in Louisiana, and they have been in the past looking for some locations in Texas, so we continue to try to engage them as well. And also, one of the requests that we have that we will continue to try to engage and reach out to is Cracker Barrel, and I'm hearing that more and more, so we continue to reach out to them as well. Manufacturers, we had 5 leads from the state, as well as from the Dallas Chamber of Commerce. These have been, obviously, when we get those, a lot of those are large requests in terms of site size as well as building size, and we haven't been able to meet those qualifications, but we'll continue to use those as resources. In addition, we have been working with 4 different I would say entertainment venues. It goes from everything from an indoor entertainment center for small children, which is something that we lack in the community, as well as a soccer complex that we continue to try to recruit and we're not going to give up on. So we also, during the month of January, staff will be attending the ICSC Red River recruitment event that will take place in Fort Worth, and that's a retail recruitment opportunity that will continue to engage different restaurants at that event. Additional activities that have taken place over the quarter is that, as you all know, the DCEDC approved the grant for Ideal Floors, which we're very pleased that you supported that this evening. The DCEDC board did reappoint Steve Dial as the president, and he was here earlier, as well as Derwin Broughton for vice president. The TIF board number 1 appointed Ken Embry as their vice president and will come before council to recommend Michael Grace to be reappointed as their president for from city council. The DCEDC board members and ED staff participated in a sales tax and legislative workshop. That's something that we try to offer every year to keep the members abreast on any new laws and legislation coming forward. And in addition, the TIF board approved their 2018 annual report. In addition, you'll see down there at the bottom right a number of council members as well as EDC staff and community partners attended the Ten Hagen excavating ribbon cutting, which was very nice. And if you haven't had a chance, I know if you go to their building, they'd be happy to show it off to you. Continuing on, city council members, I think you'll recognize one up there, and city staff participated in the Masco's Manufacturing Day and took a tour of the plant. Masco did note that they had future plans for more jobs to be added to another shift. The development team toured the DeSoto Marketplace to learn more about the latest green cooking equipment available for small businesses. This is a game changer for small restaurants coming to Duncanville. What this means is that they no longer, if they meet the size requirement, just needing small cooking, they will not have to have the vent hoods that they do right now. So this will really decrease that barrier and break down that barrier to entry into the marketplace. What this does is it's a self-contained fryer, so everything that needs to be fried is all self-contained in one unit. They've had these before, and you've seen these before in some of the different restaurants, but they've really been able to make it more feasible for small businesses, not just chain businesses, to be able to utilize this equipment. So the development team, when they attended, this included the fire marshal as well as our health inspector and building code official, and everyone signed off on the equipment. So it's a very exciting opportunity. ED staff also attended the Economic Development Conference in Fort Worth, and also ED staff continues to work with Misfit Brands, which I talked about earlier with the draft logos. In addition, we are a member of the Best Southwest Economic Development Committee, and we were able to tour the Bill J. Institute for Economic Development in Dallas, and I hadn't ever been there before. That's just another resource that we can offer if businesses are needing their staff trained in addition to our local colleges and the Workforce Commission. That's another opportunity that they can get in. They can go and get training on welding or various business classes, so it was well worth the time. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. With that, our meeting is adjourned at 9:08. Thank you.